It's an everyday thing, it's an everyday thing, it's an everyday thing when you let your nuts hang.
This escalation of violence is targeted and intentional and premeditated. The Trump administration is following a playbook.
This is Chicago.
Cause chaos, create fear and confusion, make it seem like peaceful protesters are a mob by firing gas pellets and tear gas canisters at them. Why? To create the pretext for invoking the Insurrection Act so that he can send military troops to our city. He wants to justify and normalize the presence of armed soldiers under his direct command. I want to take you through the steps that he's taken to follow the playbook and show how it is playing out real time here in Illinois. When I first heard reports of Trump's plan to send armed military troops into our streets, more than 100 elected officials, business leaders, clergy, law enforcement, educators, and community organizations gathered on August 25th to send an unequivocal message to Donald Trump. We don't want troops on the streets of Chicago. There was never an insurrection or an invasion on the ground that justified the deployment of the military to our American city. We stood out there on a beautiful day at River Point Park to make that point. Donald Trump's deranged depiction of Chicago as a hellhole, a war zone, and the worst and most dangerous city in the world was just complete BS. He clearly has decided to declare war on a great American city that has the lowest homicide rate in 60 years, in a state that has record employment and near record tourism. And he's done it for some unspoken reason.
Yeah, somebody in the chat said the president has always had military power. It's called the commander-in-chief for a reason. But go to any other country and look at their leader. He's an actual military guy, a commander, a real live veteran. And that's all I'm going to say about that. In any other words, he says there's an insurrection. People in the comment section says, where were the troops on January 6th? Well, Trump was actively the president. He was not going to deploy the military, the National Guard on his people. If he sent his people there, he wasn't going to deploy the military on them. I mean, we got to be honest with ourselves about, some of the things that's happening in our country. And when people are in power, when people really got the power, are they wielding their power, or are they creating a hostile environment, or are they doing what's right for the country? Is he doing what's right for Chicago? Because it's not right for the country. I have no desires to go to Chicago, but I do want to go one day. And I've heard about so many situations of the gun violence, but when you talk to somebody in Chicago, they tell you it's only in a small block radius. It's not like all of Chicago. Now, Chicago might be looking crazy, but there's violence everywhere. There's crime everywhere. So, I think what's happening is somebody from the outside looking in and making a decision based on numbers of what they should do with a city, that you're violating the entire city. Chicago is a big city, and their governor is fighting for them, and I believe him. But I can tell you one thing: he hasn't slowed down any of the crime in his city. So, is it him? Is it the local community leaders? Is it the local government? Is it the police? But somewhere there's a drawback to where crime has not made a drop. And I'm not going to talk about the numbers of people who get shot, because if I was in Chicago, I would not go out on Independence Day, on Juneteenth. I wouldn't go out on no holiday because Memorial Day it's a bloodbath. But again, y'all got to talk to y'all folks. You got to talk to the community leaders. Y'all got to talk to the gang members. Chicago got to do it for Chicago. Bringing the National Guard in is only going to invoke the Second Amendment, as we talked about yesterday, because I hate that we have more hate for ourselves. Now, I'm not inciting no violence whatsoever, but we incite more violence on ourselves than the government, because we hate ourselves, and that's unfortunate. But I hope they get it together. I hope Chicago get it together. I ain't out there.
President Trump has claimed Chicago is, quote, the world's most dangerous city. CBS's Usher Qureshi is there for us tonight with new reporting on the growing tensions.
For weeks now, armed federal agents, some in full tactical gear, have been patrolling downtown Chicago, and new clashes have broken out mostly outside the suburban ICE facility, but also spilling into neighborhoods, hospitals, even outside schools. Operation Midway Blitz, as it's been called, has turned more aggressive, with ICE agents conducting overnight raids of apartments, leaving residents shaken in many cases. Each weekend, protesters have taken to the streets, and confrontations with ICE agents, some in masks, have become more intense, with the use of tear gas, pepper balls, and rubber bullets. Federal officials say it's ICE agents who are under attack, both physically and through doxing, having their personal information published online. President Trump says National Guardsmen are now needed to protect federal facilities and personnel. But Senator Tammy Duckworth told Face the Nation's Margaret Brennan it's the president who has instigated this.
It's a misuse of the National Guard. They're not needed in this particular role. If President Trump really wanted to fight crime, then maybe he should stop defunding the police.
The president has called Chicago a hellhole in need of intervention. But despite the administration's claims of a city in crisis, a CBS News and data analysis shows the opposite. Going back 6 decades, this summer was one of Chicago's least violent in 24 years, with crime down 20% compared to last year. And Jerika, for many here, the question is whether this is really about public safety or politics.
All right, so if they've had the least amount of crime in that's excellent. Shout out to Chicago. I mean, the people feel it. The people feel safer. What I think right now, as I listen to this, it sort of sounds like Trump still has a vengeance on liberal cities ran by liberal governors, and he won't stop until he flips your state. He won't stop. And everybody who's been against him, he's coming at you. That's California. That's Oregon. That's Illinois. That's Tennessee. I don't know if Tennessee is a red state, but they definitely, Memphis is definitely a blue city, okay? But they're not going to Texas. How many bodies have just turned up in Texas in the past 2 months? Like 6 or 8. And it might be a serial killer out there. I don't see National Guard out there trying to, like, damn, let's patrol this park and see who's out there. Like, right? I mean, Florida, man, everybody know Florida crazy. Florida's so crazy. It was a lady, it was a little boy, a little white kid. It was a gator walking up to the house, and the boy didn't run from the gator. He was gonna give the gator some candy, a big ass gator. And the woman ran outside, snatched her son up, and the gator kind of snapped at her and didn't get her, but she like kicked at the gator and stuff like that. That's Florida. Okay, and that's not a bad situation. I mean, it would have been a bad situation, but that's not the violence that we're talking about. But that's the type of people you have out there. They don't give a damn about no gator. Okay, It's crazy out there. They do the dumbest, most worst crimes of mankind in Florida. But you don't see them deploying them out there. Why? Because it's a red state. Listen to me when I'm telling you. DC is, I don't know what DC is. DC, they own, I'm not sure if it's red or blue, but I know there's a lot of black people there. And so I would imagine they would vote blue. But I can imagine why he deployed the National Guard there. Because the mayor's probably a Democrat, okay? New York is next, okay? Any blue state that went against Trump in his first administration, he's coming for you. It's just a fact. Like, look at it. Look at the states.
I'm calling on this president to leave us the freak alone. City property and unwilling private businesses will no longer serve as staging grounds for these raids. Our school parking lots are not for ICE to load their weapons. They are for Chicagoans who drop their kids off to learn. Our libraries are not for ICE to prepare for a raid. They're for Chicagoans to read and relax. Our parks are not for ICE to set up checkpoints. They are for Chicagoans to play and enjoy. I'm calling on this president to leave us the
And as the mayor creates these ice-free zones in Chicago, in the last few minutes, we've learned the state of Illinois and city of Chicago are suing the Trump administration over its latest plan to deploy National Guard troops here. A federal memo over the weekend assigned troops to our state, despite the objections that we've continued to hear from Governor J.B. Pritzker. The governor is holding a press conference this afternoon with Mayor Johnson, and Pritzker said that 400 members of the Texas National Guard will be coming to Illinois. The White House claims that it's to help with crime in Chicago, even though the city's crime rate is down.
We're going to straighten it out. And I think that Pritzker, he's not a stupid person. I think that Pritzker's afraid for his life.
They want mayhem on the ground. They want to create the war zone so that they can send in even more troops. Now they're claiming they need 300 of Illinois' National Guard. Well, we didn't need them before they showed up.
This new lawsuit calls the deployment of federalized troops to Illinois, quote, patently unlawful.
Again, this is causing more and more friction between the state of Illinois and Donald Trump. And not even the state, Chicago. This is actually Chicago. They're not going to any other city in Illinois. This is against Chicago. Donald Trump has a hard-on for Chicago, and apparently Memphis. I think Memphis is a different, a total different thing. I believe that Memphis is a joint effort between local officials and the head officials, not the mayor, like the governors, the attorney generals, like all them the big ones. And they wanted to bring more law and order there. Now, they offered to work with all the state government and bring them all together, bring some funds and bring some help in to rid the city of crime, because they might be backed up on, arrest. They might be backed up on hard crime that's out there. I don't know, but I believe they're more like a synchronized attack versus what's going on in Chicago. I think Chicago is a government takeover. It's a government takeover in Chicago. It's not like Memphis.
Immigration raids turned violent in Chicago tonight. President Trump threatening to send in the National Guard. Just this week, we saw ICE agents rappelling from a helicopter onto a residential apartment building where American citizens were among those, including children in their pajamas, were taken into custody in the middle of the night.
Meanwhile, a federal judge has temporarily blocked his order to send troops to Portland, Oregon. ABC's Ika Jachi has the latest on the pushback in both cities.
Tonight, angry protesters gathering in Chicago's Brighton Park neighborhood after agents from the Department of Homeland Security were patrolling the area. Authorities say a federal agent's vehicle was rammed and boxed in by several cars. DHS officials said one of the drivers who rammed her car into the agents was armed with a semi-automatic weapon. Officers firing what they called defensive shots at the woman. Chicago fire officials say she was taken to the hospital for a gunshot wound. DHS says the woman, a U.S. citizen, is named in the Customs and Border Protection.
I thought they were supposed to be going unarmed. Didn't I hear that earlier? Or was that in Memphis? But nah, I said they got weapons. Somebody got weapons out in this thing.
Protection Intelligence Bulletin last week for allegedly doxing agents online. Saturday's shooting comes amid rising tensions between local leaders and the federal government.
People need to realize that it's not just about fighting against Trump, it's fighting for a more humane immigration system that we all deserve.
On Friday, several protesters were detained by federal agents near an immigration facility outside of Chicago as Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem visited the site.
You can see it right here. They have a big gun on the roof right now, aiming at protesters. This is one-sided violence, one-sided escalation that began with mass secret police coming into our community and disappearing our neighbors.
And now President Trump says he'll deploy 300 National Guard troops to Chicago, a plan Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker has repeatedly rejected. Meanwhile, in Portland, a federal judge temporarily blocks President Trump's plan to deploy the National Guard. Judge Karen Immergut issuing a temporary restraining order Saturday evening, barring the troops for at least 14 days. Oregon's Attorney General speaking out about the ruling.
Today's ruling is a healthy check on the president's power, and as the president, you must have an actual facts based on reality, not social media or just your gut feeling if you want to mobilize the military here in the United States.
Ike Ajachi, ABC News, New York.
Without my permission and against my vigorous objections, the president has federalized 300 Illinois National Guard.
This is organized domestic terrorism. The purpose of domestic terrorism is to obtain, through violence and intimidation and the threat of violence, a change in politics or policy that cannot be obtained through lawful democratic means. So when you have a 10-car ramming attack with armed attackers clearly intending to murder ICE officers in the conduct of their duties, what else can you call that? Right? Remember, the central issue that was litigated in 2024 was whether or not to turn back the border invasion. Americans voted to send the illegals home. The invasion that took place was one of the greatest crimes that has ever happened in the history of this country. And now that ICE officers are simply trying to execute on the mandate of the last election and the laws that were passed by Congress, they have been the victims of an unceasing campaign of violence and intimidation and terrorism. As Secretary Noem said, there are now bounties on the heads of ICE officers. They have to shield their families' identities at school and in public. They're being constantly doxxed and threatened with assassination. Again, we're just days from an attempted mass assassination of ICE officers at an ICE facility. And the response to that has been to try to, for example, in Chicago, to try to prevent ICE officers from being able to enter key parts of the city to conduct their responsibilities. This is an all-out campaign of insurrection against the sovereignty of the United States because the Democrat Party and those who are committing violence in this country do not believe in the legitimacy of the sovereign territory of the United States, and they don't want any of these illegal aliens to go home. So they want to cement by force, by violent force, the invasion that took place between 2021 and 2024. Thank you.
All right, so is that one-sided, or is that for? Help me help you, okay? That's what I be talking about. Sometimes y'all just be talking. I said I don't mind showing both sides of the part, but y'all, where are the facts? Where are the Republicans speaking out on what's happening to Chicago or Memphis? Are there any? There aren't any. Because they shutting their mouth because they getting what they want. When you get what you want, you tend to shut up. When it's going your way, you tend to look the other way. So when when it was the government shutdown and everybody was talking about the radical Democrats, radical Democrat this, radical Democrat, you heard every Republican news outlet speaking on this. How many Republican outlets do you see speaking on this and justifying what's going on? Not very many. Fox, are we gonna listen to Fox News? I mean, we can go to Fox News all day and listen to the Five and hear what they got to say, hear them bicker back and forth, arguing with a woman, trying to overtalk a woman who's speaking common sense to some of the nonsense. Yeah, that's what you would call far right. And when you listen to that, you just gotta pay attention. You're not from if you're on the Five and you talking about what's going on in Chicago, you're not in Chicago. How about talk to somebody who's out of Chicago? It don't matter how many. You got one. If you get one video, I mean, be happy. Because I'm showing both sides. All right, I got 3. This one, I got 3. I'm listening to everything. Just like when I showed the mayor of Memphis talking about what happened. I'm being logical. I said exactly what he said. I was like, I hope it's something locally going on. And he just clarified it. So it wasn't that he was being biased to what the state of Tennessee is asking the president to do. You know, like make it make sense. If y'all gonna do it, you gotta make it make sense. That's what we're here for. Everybody's opinion matters. Everybody's voice matters. At the end of the day, we Americans. Do you want to see this come to your city? If this was your city, would you want this? That's what I'm asking. Y'all think it's just like, oh, it's Republican, it's Democratic, it's a Democrat, a bias, and y'all just know, man. Y'all don't think logically. See, that's when you gotta step outside your box, and you might not need to see it from the other side. All you might watch is Fox News. So if all you watch is Fox News, you don't know what's really going on. That's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, just be open-minded and be human for once.
When protesters confronted federal immigration agents in Brighton Park on Saturday, they were met with pepper balls and more repression. CPD responded to attempt to de-escalate the situation, and ICE tear gassed our police officers. Let me be clear. Tear gassing the women and men who serve as Chicago Police Department officers is not how we make our city safer. I'm calling for a full investigation into this incident and into all of the brutality that we have seen over the past week. They are taking police resources that should be in our neighborhoods, serving Chicagoans, and diverting them to deal with the chaos that they are causing. We need ICE out of our city so that we can continue to focus on the strategies that have been working to drive violent crime down.
Now, are we still back in the blue? Are we back in the blue at this point? Or are we going for ICE? We're gonna push the blue line to the side for a moment just so we can handle the ICE agenda first. And yeah, don't move the goalposts on this one. Speak freely and speak clear. Is attacking the police officers, pepper spraying the police, is it okay? Now, am I absolutely sure that they intended willingly and with sound minds shoot pepper spray at the police, or was this this was just in defense? The police were right there, and this is how they got into all the pepper spraying, because the police were in ground zero, in between the protesters and in between ICE agents, because the police are there to also mediate the situation. Now, because they have to be. When it's situations like this, you have to have the police there. Now, were the police sprayed, just because they was right there? We don't know. We don't know exactly. I'm not there. People who were there can tell you. I'm pretty sure these police officers may say something different, but will they speak out? Will they speak out about what's actually happening? If we only see one side, it's because only one side is reporting what's happening. Y'all missing that. Y'all missing it. But we gonna keep it going. Listen, I think if you back the blue, what's your call? What's your call? Let them do their job. Let them do their job. ICE agents, let the police do their job. But did they let them do their job? Absolutely not.
Are you guys being paid?
No. Not only are we not being paid, the stuff that is here is stuff that a lot of us are bringing here ourselves. I feel a little betrayed. Governor Pritzker has said on multiple occasions he has urged us to come out and protest, which we did, and then there were state troopers here who were shoving us.
Illinois state troopers now dealing with protesters outside the Broadview ICE facility, pushing them back to the newly created designated free speech zones over the weekend. Protesters are stocked up with supplies, some sleeping in their cars, to call out what they say are inhumane conditions inside the facility where migrants are detained.
Protect the women and children. Look at this savage. His own people had to pull him off.
Day and night. For some women, it can start working in as fast as 1 week.